Hi, I'm Adam. This video is part of a free course to help you understand your audience and increase your sales. Get it now free at funnelcandy.com/research. All right, let's dive in. Website polls. A quick story. Your website can often feel like an ivory tower. You've designed the pages, you've written the copy, you've got the offer, and yet you don't get any feedback from anybody. And you can start to feel pretty isolated up there in the ivory tower. It's important that you go out and talk to your prospects and talk to your customers and understand what they think about your website. Today, we're going to be talking about website polls, which are an easy way for you to get out of that tower and get lots of feedback from your prospects. So a poll, which you can see here, is an interactive feature that you can put on your website where visitors can answer a question or maybe vote on a topic. So you notice here, this poll appears and says, if you did not make a purchase today, what stopped you? And then it lists a couple options that you can use. Now, there's one thing about this poll that I would recommend against. You notice here that there's a question and then there's 4 boxes that you can choose. This type of question is basically making an assumption that you know what the answer to that question is. Always go for an open-ended question. So instead of giving people 4 options that they can tick a box, just give them an open text field so that they can respond. You'd be amazed what you learn when you start to hear it in your prospect's own words. Polls can help you in a lot of ways. It can help you to improve your content. It'll help you to improve your website design and usability. It can help boost your brand and also lead to new strategies. It can increase your sales and your leads. Of course, this is all true if you ask the right questions. Now, speaking of questions, let's dive into those. Here are several questions that we found to work over the years when we were consultants. Where did you first hear about us? Now, this is a great question because it helps you understand where people are referring you. And this is something that you want to ask as an open-ended text field. You'd also want to ask what info is missing or would make your decision to buy easier. This is a great pre-sale question to understand, hey, maybe we dropped the ball and we didn't specify this, or we didn't address this concern, or we didn't answer this question. All of this stuff would be vital to ultimately close the deal. And you can ask people and they'll tell you. You can also ask if you didn't sign up or buy today, what stopped you? Now, this goes great on a landing page when you're asking for an email address. If you didn't sign up today, can you tell us why not? Or you can put this in a checkout process. Hey, if you didn't buy today, what stopped you? And you can learn a lot. They might say, hey, the checkout process is broken. I tried. And now you've got this avenue that you can explore and understand what's going on there. You can also ask, how can we make this page better? This works really well for pricing pages, blog posts, or any page really where you're looking to improve it. You can also ask, what other content would you like? This is fantastic for content marketers. If you have a whole bunch of blog posts, you can have website polls that will ask, hey, what are you most interested in learning about next? And this is a great question to help you figure that out. And you can plan out your editorial calendar very easily once you know the content that people are saying, yeah, I want more about this or more about that. You can also ask, what is your biggest challenge? Now, this one works really well for both sales and for content marketing. For sales, if you understand somebody's biggest challenge in their own words, you can then write copy to address those concerns. You can also write blog posts that directly address that as well in order to get more traffic and build more trust before you start going for the sale. All right, so now let's talk about setting up the polls. There are numerous types of polls that you can use depending on which type of tool you choose. Here are just a few examples. The first one is a popover. And this is the one that I showed you previously from Colgate with the red background. This is where it just appears in the bottom side of your screen. You can usually choose left or right, and it'll pop up at a certain time. We'll talk about that in a moment. Another option is a button. In this case, you've got the button that's just here on the right-hand side of the screen. And if somebody clicks that, then that'll fire the poll so that they can leave feedback. Alternatively, if you really want to be upfront, you can use a full screen option. And this is where it pops up right in front of people. Like you can't get away from this one. You can also have a link to the poll. Now let's talk about targeting. You can set up the polls to fire depending on the device type. And we highly recommend that you segment these polls by device type. There's a few reasons why, but the big one is that on desktop and mobile, some polls work for desktop, but they won't work for mobile. A classic one here is on page abandonment. So if you wanted to fire a poll on exit when somebody's looking to leave the website, you can only do that on desktop. And that means you definitely want to set up a poll for desktop users only. You can also focus on pages. Now you can run one poll site-wide on all pages, or you can choose specific pages. So maybe you want one poll that's asking one question on your blog post that says, hey, what type of content would you be interested in reading more about? Or what's your current challenge? And then on your pricing page, you might say, is our pricing clear? Is there anything that we can make this page better for you? And on your checkout page, you could ask something like, hey, before you go, if you decided not to buy, could you tell us why? And this will allow you to gather lots of feedback, asking the right questions at the right time in the right place. Now, keep in mind with the website polls, you can change the timing on these. You can fire them immediately, which we don't recommend because, as we all know, when you go to a website, you don't want to have a pop-up or something that appears right away. It's intrusive, it's distracting, and frankly, most users don't even know what they're doing when they land on your website in the first place. They need a second to figure out what's going on. It'd be like walking inside somebody's house and then immediately like 5 dogs and 5 kids and 5 other people just come rushing at you. And you're like, whoa, I just need to get my bearings real quick. So don't hit people immediately with this. Give them some time to browse around. So a few options you've got. When a user is about to abandon, now this one works great for the sales questions. And again, it only works on desktop. You can fire this when people are looking to exit the page. And a great question to ask here is, if you didn't buy, or if you didn't sign up, or if you didn't provide your email address, could you tell us what stopped you? And this way, the only people that see that question are the people that have already started to navigate away from the page. They've already basically expressed the fact that they don't want to take the next step. So you can ask them, but you're not getting in the way of people that are going to sign up or buy. You can also fire it when a user scrolls halfway down the page. This works really well for content pages, like if you have a blog post. If a person's getting halfway down, you can say, what other content would you like us to cover? Because that way they've already started to engage with the content and they have a general sense of what they would like to see next. You could also ask questions like, where did you first hear about us? And you can ask that on multiple pages as well. You can also fire this to go after a specific time. Now, here's a pro tip. Look in your analytics and determine the average time on site. Once you understand the average time on site, you're not going to be as intrusive because you're only going to fire this poll for people that are spending a good amount of time on your site. It might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes, it might be longer. But it gives people a chance to go through your website and get a sense of what's going on before you ask your questions. You can also change the behavior of polls. So when you're looking at the frequency, you can have the polls appear again and again for a user until they respond, or you can just fire it once and then leave it at that. Which one is right for you? It's really up to you. Generally, I'd suggest doing it until they respond, provided you're not firing it on entry all the time. Remember, that's a little too much. But at the end of the day, whatever you feel most comfortable with, that'll work. And remember, you're setting up a different poll for different parts of the site. So you can also change the frequency for each one. So for example, you could have a poll that goes on your pricing page for desktop users, a poll that goes on your pricing page for mobile users, and then you could have another poll on your blog posts for all users, and you can change the frequency for all 3 of those polls. It's entirely up to you. Now, the great thing about website polls is that your responses actually come in real time. So as people fill it out, it then shows up in the dashboard. However, you probably don't want to keep an eye on this all the time. What we recommend is that you can launch these polls. If you have the traffic, you can get 200 to 300 responses. That's ideal. But having said that, even 5 responses are going to be better than 0 because you're actually getting feedback from people as they're going through the website, and that can be invaluable. Now, it's important for you to take these steps and set up the polls on your website because it will take a while for you to get this data to come in. Once you have all of those responses, again, 5, 10, 50, 100, all the way up to 300, anything that you can get over, let's say, a week or 2 or 3 is going to be great. Export that data as a CSV or any type of file you can put into a spreadsheet. And from there, you can start to look at the results and analyze the data. We'll show you how to analyze the responses in an upcoming lesson, so you can add it to your research doc. So stay tuned for that one. To quickly summarize, website polls are a great way for you to get feedback from your prospects as they're going through your site. It's an excellent way for you to get out of that ivory tower and start collecting feedback right away. You can set up polls on a wide variety of pages, asking a wide variety of questions, targeting for desktop or mobile. And you can use all of the questions that we've provided you. You can use those in the polls yourself or write your own. It's really up to you. You can ask whatever questions you'd like. Now, as I mentioned, we'll show you how to break down and analyze all the responses in a later lesson, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening. This video is part of a free course on how to understand your audience and increase your sales. You can get the full course for free at funnelcandy.com/research. See you there.